Gus and I have created this group. We want to create an environment where we can teach life transformative principles, a place to also build community with other growth minded individuals like yourselves. And um, we'll be going over a quick topic. Meeting in total is about 25 minutes or so. But I know Steven's coming back for his second time. And I know you got some pretty good value last time. But before we go around, we're going to check in like we did last time, just to see how you're doing, whether it be your mental health or your physical health. Uh, on a scale of 1 to 10, obviously, the lower the number, the lower you're doing. And you don't have to go too detail or in depth why. We may come back at the end to offer support to anybody that wants support. But I'll start off, and I'm a 9 right now, doing pretty great. Have had great workouts, doing well at work, and nothing to complain about. So I'm a 9. If you want to go next, Carlos.
Right now, I could say I am a 7, just because I'm still working on building the fundamentals of my life. But I guess those are goal oriented. So me myself personally could be like a 8.
Cool, cool. Steven, you want to go next?
Yeah, I would say I'm about a 9. I've been attacking that credit card debt I was telling you about, and my mom was able to help me find a credit card that's like 0%, and basically we like paid off the card with two cards, and now I'm paying it like every 2 weeks. I'm putting like $250 in, and then I recently got and I interviewed for a good job that I could potentially be getting like $27 an hour. So I'm just waiting on that, but things have been going well, especially too with the photography business. So like I just feel good that I'm not like thinking about money all the time, or like what's gonna happen next. So I'd
Are
say
you
things,
amazed to find that putting one simple plan in place has already transformed how you feel in such short turnaround of time?
yeah, it's crazy. And I did, put into the what you said into consideration, and it was really simple, but it just really started like changing things up in a big way. Like I think that very next day, um, like paid it off, and then started putting in the payments like we talked about, 250, and then I just got paid today. So I was thinking of like um breaking down. So I already paid that actually like just this morning. So now I want to like put the money aside like for the camera, or for the other things that my other goals that I was trying to reach.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Carlos and Steven, there's 3 fundamental areas that we work on with this Ignite coaching system. It's Ignite, oneness being, oneness doing, and oneness achieving. So it's very important to know that, executing the plan makes you feel great, but we can cover something that has to do with action steps, get into flow state, accomplishing your goals, or we can focus on perceiving accurately, having the right mindset towards something. Checking both is very important to have a complete experience. Is there anything that is going on in your guys' life, Steven or Carlos, that might be in one of those two categories. Is there a challenge or is there a problem that maybe Gus or I can help out with?
Good. Can you give me like an example again, like what you were saying?
So, last time we talked about finances and whether it be in the category of relationships, productivity, whether it be mental health, emotional, spiritual, it's in those categories. But do you think you can shed some light on the differences between one is being and one is doing, Gus?
Sure, yeah. Maybe let's unpack that so you guys have an understanding. So there's three things that we all need as humans to be feeling one, to be feeling great, you know, and ultimately just one of these is what we need. Oneness being is the most important part. That's you feeling at peace within yourself. If you don't have that, you could be a celebrity with all the great things in the world, but take your own life. So you ultimately need to be all right with yourself, right? That's oneness being. Oneness doing has to do with your actions you're taking in the world. Are you doing actions that you're excited about, that you're happy with? You know, what you just mentioned just before, Stephen, was oneness doing, which impacted your oneness being. You took all these actions that you just said you would, you did them, and now you're reaping the benefits of more peaceful life, less stress, less focus on money, so you can get more flow state. Okay. The last part of oneness is oneness achieving. That's where you bear the fruit of what you want to achieve, and what you achieve lines up with what you've done and how you feel about yourself. But if you put on the wrong foundation and you're trying to achieve to feel right about yourself, it never lasts because it's only a temporary thing. So you have to keep achieving the next thing to make yourself feel good. So you can feel bliss and peace and love within yourself even before you achieve anything, right? But so we can focus on any one of those three. We can focus on oneness achieving, we can focus on oneness doing, or we can focus on oneness being. So just to reiterate that, want to open it up. Is there anything that comes out to your mind that would be the most important thing in your life at the moment? Yeah, Carlos, did you have something there?
Yes, I think I heard Tonio talk about perception and accomplishment or producing. For me, I feel like I am not accomplishing enough, but it's just my perception is just off, way off. I think I need to, take this journey as a marathon instead of I need to accomplish something tomorrow and start earning some kind of income. So I think having this kind of community will help me perceive my journey a little better.
Great. That's a great example. Really common one too you bring up is a lot of it is our frustration is just because we've got a mismatch of expectation. We believe we should be here to feel all right about ourselves, but we're here. Because we've got disempowering expectations of life, it takes us away from flow state. Can you guys all relate to that?
Yep. Yep.
Have you seen that one play out as well, Stephen?
Yeah, I have.
So would you think this topic here will be worth us going down a bit deeper on to really find out how we can get around it?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, cool. Well, if you guys all in agreement with that, let's take a wee deep dive into this of how we can realign these things. But what I first want to do is show you guys just this pyramid here, which will really give you an understanding of where this is, well, where this relates. So you guys should all be able to see on your screen now this pyramid that comes up. More specifically, this one. So what happens is when we don't have an expectation secured, we try and force flow up here. But if we don't produce flow, we end up producing brokenness up here. Because we need to actually have realistic, we have to perceive accurately, which is the first mission of humans. Okay. What most people do is the reverse of the first mission. The reverse of the first mission, what do you think it is? If you're not perceiving accurately, then you are what?
You're hitting the wall. You're just running around in circles.
Yeah, you're receiving blindly, right? You're receiving from the outside world. You're not creating your reality through knowing what your purpose is. You're receiving whatever you're being told. So what happens is when you get a mismix of expectations, it's often coming from the outside world. Oh, you're only good enough if you achieve this. You're only a man if you have a 4-wheel drive. You're only awesome if you're earning a 6-figure income. All right. So you guys are going to relate to that. Your level of feeling of who you are is only matched to when you achieve something. The problem is the goalpost change. As soon as you had 100K, now you're not earning as much as your mate who's earning 150. So you feel good for a nanosecond and it changes, right? If you don't learn how to create the perception within for a start, you're always going to be changing the goalposts. Does that make sense?
Yep, definitely does.
So, yeah. So just maybe just zeroing in a bit deeper, Carlos, can you give us a bit more insight into what your expectations are and where the frustration's coming from?
Yeah, so honestly, I accomplished 1 year of stability. So now I could say I finally achieved secureness in a way. And at the same time, so 4 months ago, I started a new career in insurance, specifically life. And that journey on its own is a little frustrating because it's not like a job where I put in hours and I get dollars. So most of my life I've been living this economic story backwards. I started with income that I didn't have to, residual income at a young age, so that enabled me to work. And so I started figuring out a way to make an income, but also keep my freedom. However, now that I'm stable, I'm looking to date, and the reason for dating is to find a wife, to have children, to secure the legacy. So now that I'm responsible for myself, how can I be responsible for others if I don't have that immediate income? So
Okay.
that's what's a little frustrating in my life right now.
Totally get you. Okay, so this is beautiful. So what we're seeing here is we're seeing Carlos done an incredible job getting passive income. So he's got a level of security, right? So he's gone on life's journey, but where he's at is he's also been inspired from an internal point of view. He's got to the stage of being directed and executing, but here's where the pattern interrupts happening. He's wanting to flow, but his plan for himself works perfect. It gets him secured. But now what's happening is there's been a shift because he now has to take responsibility not only for his own life, but for the life of potentially a wife and children. So now what happens is a mismatch of blueprint. So you had a perfect plan for yourself, but now that someone else potentially is included, there's a defraying of the blueprint. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So is it true that you're trying to take steps forward what we usually would work, but in your mind it's hitting a brick wall because it's like, well, this isn't going to work because it's not just me now, it's these other people that I'm got to take into consideration.
And not only that, I've been living a very selfish life, and now it's time for me to give back and stop consuming so much and creating at the same time. So not only am I focused on career, but I want to learn a new skill, which enables to think on the other side of the brain and kind of fall off in my attention span when I start doing that.
Oh, definitely. That totally makes sense. So I want to show you something that hopefully is going to make a lot of sense. And I'm just going to leave that page and show you this page. And what this will really give you insight into is basically how it works at the bigger picture. So if we follow the world's way, if we follow modern society's way, we're going to end up in brokenness. We're going to end up in fragmentation from ourselves. Does that make sense? If we follow what has been put inside us, we're going to enter into oneness. But as you know, oneness goes from oneness being to oneness doing to oneness achieving. But if we turn that round, we can do it in the positive. But to highlight this, the first three aspects of being is having these things: secured, inspired, directed. It sounds to me like you're secured. It sounds to me like you're inspired. You know what your highest priorities are. It sounds to me like what we need to focus on here is the right blueprint to get to where you want to go. And that comes with realistic expectations. And also a key thing that Sosa knows, which is life mapping. So maybe Salsa, if I could just let you enter in here, because I really have pinpointed, I think what Carlos is shining the light on is if he gets the right blueprint, kind of like what Stephen touched on a couple of weeks ago, getting that blueprint right to take the right steps. How does, when you go through that life mapping, how did the life mapping change your mindset around your expectation level? Over to you for you, Salsa.
Once I was very clear with Gus's system on what the destination was, and then the steps leading up to it, and actually taking the time and having a think. And I would recommend this for you too, Stephen. Knowing what your destination is, knowing what, you know, your blueprint, where's that target that you're aiming at? And then working backwards. Okay, so then what are maybe 4 or 5 milestones before that? And then what are the action steps? And listing out almost everything that needs to get done for you to attain it. Once I was clear on where I was headed, it was a breath of fresh air, because then I needed to figure out, okay, what's the next step? And you just get to the 10,000-mile journey one step at a time, finding out what the very next step is, and always asking yourself what the next step is. And, you know, it goes more into depth, and we'll probably have to make this like a 3 or 4 part series of being directed, but it's in with his teachings, it lives and breathes, and it can change with you. But once you do the target very well, that doesn't really change that much.
Brilliant. So just want to really, maybe, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but I want to give you enough knowledge to know how powerful it is when you put this together. So basically, as you look down here, the bottom layer involves the 9 different areas of your life. And if you don't have any one of those secured, it's going to come in and impact your life to get you out of flow state. Can you guys all relate to that?
Yes.
So I want to give you a real practical example. If you are, you're trying to get flow, you're trying to work well, but let's say your living environment systemically has toxic mold in it. Is that going to disable you in some way, shape, or form to get into your flow state?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And you guys can all relate to that, to at least one of these areas stopping your flow state in some time in life, whether it's been your financial management, your time management, your career, your physical health, etc. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. I'm not saying you're going to be perfect. You're just going to get the systemically sorted, you know. The next level is inspired. Now, it sounds like, Carlos, you know what you want. You know internally what you want, right? You want to leave a legacy. You want a family. You want a wife. You want kids. You want that family, right?
That's right.
And for some people, it's worth them figuring out if that's what they want or if that's what society's told them they want. But it sounds like in your case, you've done that work, you know what you want. So therefore, what really important now is you go back to the directed level, and that's where life mapping comes in. That's what I work with Sosa on. So with life mapping, you figure out the order in which you need to map out the big chapters of your life. When you have that out of alignment, you end up with sabotage. So what happens is I see many people enter a relationship only to bow out of it a year later because they didn't plan out what they wanted, or they pursue physical health only to then go and travel around the world and binge drink, right? Because they haven't figured out how their desires are going to correlate, right? So life mapping is important. Once you got that, I teach something called the TRG, which is, how cool is this plan, Salsa? The TRG plan, the Target Reason Guide. I mean, this really is what he was talking about. It gives you a GPS system to always stay on track. And the cool thing about the plan, it's not just one plan you set. Like if Stephen sets this plan about, you know, the finances, once he knows the TRG plan, which we remember the TRG we taught you 2 weeks ago, Stephen, how strong do you feel with that TRG plan?
It was very good. It made me realize a lot. Like we were talking about feelings, like, right, if you don't do it correctly, then you'll feel this way. If you start doing it right, then you're going to start feeling more peaceful and fulfilled, right? Yeah.
And so what Stephen touched on there was the reason part, and then we went full. We only showed him the guide part. I haven't even showed him the GPS part. The GPS part is knowing how, no matter what happens, you get to your true north. The great thing for you, Carlos, is you've identified your true north, which is a family and legacy. So you already know a cool part of your mission. So with this, I'd say, talking about your point, the most important thing I see what you bring to the table, and I hear your feedback on this, is that Life mapping could be really helpful, but also knowing a plan and having the confidence to know that no matter what happens, you can get to it. How do you think that sits with you as we're talking through this?
Yeah, I definitely don't have a clear picture. Just have the idea, and like I've fell upon the truth that you can't just think yourself to riches. You gotta come up with a plan and execute. So yeah, it'll be nice if I could just think up a nice luxury car, but there's steps towards that.
Hey, positive thinking is great, visualization is great, but it's nothing without action, right? We're part of oneness is if we were just created to just be feeling, we would have no limbs. We would just be this ball of energy and we just feel, right? Oneness being is important, but it's not everything, right? But you don't want to sacrifice oneness being. You've got to have that first. But what oneness doing as well, part of the extension of being human is we get to be physical in the world. We get to go out and interact. So we need to take the right actions to then get the final thing with what we want to have. We want to have the things that we want, but we don't have to have them to feel human. We can be the poorest person on earth and feel the bliss. We can totally bliss out. We don't need that. But as an extension of our legacy and what we're called to do and the inspired, we want to have the things, right? But the cool thing about this process is I never tell you what to do. I always help your heart detect what it wants. And then I show you the scaffolding of how to achieve it.
I'll be seeing you guys next Monday. Till then, have a great week.